I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to all who got involved in the arrangement and the preparation for this event. First of all, what's going on? Doesn't work. Doesn't change. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's easy. First of all, let me start by talking about my personal experience, because it is a sort of evolution of noise control engineering to acoustic ecology. I was born in 1946 and went to university in 1965 and read environmental engineering. My research on the acoustic environment was noise control, particularly the effects of noise on men and women. The methodology was mostly laboratory experiments, noise annoyance, and some other psychological and physiological impacts of noise exposure. After about 10 years, I got skeptical of doing this sort of research. I mean, skeptical of the laboratory experiments on noise annoyance, and wanted to know what was going on in the real world. Then went out of the laboratory and began field work in some towns of Kyoto, as well as in the countryside. The methods were measurements of recordings and recordings of environmental sounds and questionnaire surveys and interviews with local people. This methodology was within the range of engineering as well as a sort of soundscape study. In 1985, when I was asked to visit Okinawa and give them advice about the noise situation by lawyers, I encountered an old woman. They are living under the flight corridor in the vicinity of Kadena U.S. Airbase. She was illiterate, which was not unusual for a girl born in about 1900 in Okinawa. But she was active in the movements of fighting against war and seeking for peace. Through the interview with her, I came to realize that in order to know how a social or individual perceives and understands the sonic environment, it is indispensable to learn the history of the social and individual. Here is Okinawa on the map. As you see, it is a strategically important position from today's military point of view that made Americans attack Okinawa in April 1945, towards the end of the Second World War. The Battle of Okinawa is said to be the only and more tragic ground combat, claiming 200,000 lives. After the war, Japan was under the occupation of the Allied forces until 1952, which is, in fact, it was under American occupation. In the case of Okinawa, the occupation lasted until 1972. Based on the security treaty between Japan and the United States, there are about 130 US military bases and facilities in Japan, 75% of which are located in Okinawa, coming up to 20% of Okinawa Island. This is a place where American invaded in 1945. And the Kadena Airbase is there. And of course, there used to be residents living around in the villages and towns in this big area, but which is today in a compound of Airbase. So people are evacuated to live in this area, dense area, and also there is a Snabe. Sorry about that. I will show the pointer. Snabe village, where the old woman used to live. psychologist of the U.S. Air Force once said to me, the noise exposure around the Kadena is the highest among the U.S. Air Force bases over the world. So as you see, the noise exposure is quite high. As a result of high level of noise exposure, noise effects of local people were serious. As an epidemiology study conducted revealed a full dressing of noise effects. The question is, why do they have to hear so high level of noise? I mean, Okinawan people's question. Is this a punishment or anything? They say it reminds them of the history of Okinawa. It was an independent kingdom until 1879, when the king was forcibly taken to Tokyo. It's a kind of abduction. They understand that Tokyo's policy was to make Okinawa a shield to protect the mainland when attacked from the south, which actually occurred in 1945. Tokyo tried to unify and assimilate Okinawa into the imperialist system, particularly during the days when the far-right ideology was rampant in Japan. Okinawan people were expected, and they tried, to be like the Japanese, loyal subjects to the emperor. An extreme manifestation of subjugation to the imperialist system. It's in the Battle of Okinawa, even male and female teenagers were conscripted as paramilitary personnel. People are told not to be captured by the enemy and chose death rather than being captives. This led to the fact that scores of cases of civilian mass suicides reportedly happened. After the war, as I said, the US occupation lasted for 27 years, and the people desperately desired the reversion of the administration to Japan that could change the situation to make Okinawa like what the mainland was enjoying. But their hope was betrayed. Okinawa's resentment understandably go more to Tokyo than to the US. They hear aircraft noise. With the knowledge of the history of Okinawa and their own life histories. But their history is not just on the soil of Okinawa. There was a tide in Okinawa in the early 20th century to go abroad, to work and send home earnings, mainly because the conscription system was applied to Okinawa in 1895. In the case of Kame, she went to Saipan together with her husband in 1929 to make money to build the town. Two, Saipan is a small island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. There was a big enterprise, the so-called South Sea Development Company, which was dominant in the West Pacific, based on sugar production. Workers gathered from the mainland and on Okinawa. Kame was one of them. The couple led quite a peaceful and happy life on the tropical island, but when they thought of going home, with sufficient money in 1944, Saipan became the target of the US forces. Saipan was a keystone in the Pacific for the US forces to attack mainland of Japan. A big airbase was constructed in Tinian Island, which was next to Saipan, from which B-29 bombers took off to raid Japanese cities, including Enola Gate, dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. As a matter of course, Battle of Saipan became one of the fiercest battles in the Pacific War, claiming 22,000 civilians' lives. The couple narrowly evaded death in shelling and firing with unbearable experiences on the battlefield, captured by US soldiers, and sent to one of the camps on Saipan, where they lived for 1.5 years until they returned to Okinawa in 1946. What they saw in their homeland when they went back to Okinawa was a devastated scene, and they learned their own land had been requisitioned by the U.S. military government team. They had to wait for 8 years, living in a makeshift housing. It was 1954 when part of their land was released, allowing them to move back to their homeland, Tsunabe village. Tsunabe village is next door to Kadena Airbase. During the Vietnam War, 2 big runways were constructed, causing noise exposure of high levels around the base. The aircraft noise reminded Kame of the Battle of Saipan as she hated war more than anything else. She feared the base's existence could lead to involvement in another war, and strongly desired the disappearance of all military bases. Moreover, she got heartbroken when she imagined that the bombers taking off from the bases of her own land flew to Vietnam and dropped bombs on the heads of Vietnamese people. People in Okinawa hear aircraft noise in such a way based on their life histories and the local histories which are different from those of mainlanders. Even if the aircraft noise is the same in Okinawa and the mainland, bases in the mainland, the way they hear the noise is different. Kame passed away in February 1995 at the age of 91. Thank you very much.
Hello from Florida. Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm wondering about one of the slides that you showed. I believe it was showing decibel levels, but I just wanted to see if that was the case. Maybe it was your 10th slide?
This is it.
Yes.
Yes.
Are these decibel levels?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Incredibly high, isn't it?
I think that's quite high. Yeah, yes. Out of my comfort zone. Thank you.
You're welcome. And of course, this is maximum noise level.
Dr. Williams in Zoom had a comment and says, great presentation, thank you, with many exclamation points. And I think a lot of us agree. Yes, absolutely. Are there any other? Please come. One more question about the same slide.
Yes. In the back. Hi, I just wanted to see what the duration of the measurements were for the LMAX.
Duration?
Yeah, so how long of a time frame did you get the decibels from? And do you happen to have the LEQ as well, or just the LMAX?
This is the maximum noise level, and which is measurement is done in 24 hours around the clock.
So was it over one day or multiple days?
This was the maximum level in 1 year, 1998.
1 year.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think anyone else? Feel free. No? All right. Thank you so much for your presentation. What time is it there, by the way?
4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us in the middle of the night morning. It's very kind. And thank you for your presentation.